Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another jam-packed episode of Big Apple Hockey for our weekly show. And we got a lot that we're going to be talking about, from Alexander Ovechkin scoring his 800th goal to Mitch Marner's impressive scoring streak. And Anthony is going to ask us who says no. So I am Mark Williams, your host for today. And I'm joined by the man who's going to change his name to Nostradamus, Mr. John Folkowski.
Definitely not. But if there was anybody who at one point or another considered a name change, it was probably the guy that you're going to introduce after me, because that guy absolutely adored and idolizes Alexander Ovechkin, who we're going to talk about in a little bit. And I'll pass that over to Mr. Anthony LaRocco, who is a very, very happy man after seeing his boy achieve greatness.
Yeah. I wear the number 8 around my neck. It's my number that I've wore for a long time, and it's mostly because of solely because of Alexander Ovechkin. So, I'm a diehard Islander fan. I've always been a big fan of his, and what an amazing accomplishment. I was glad that, I was able to watch it last night, and kudos to him, because he's defying the way athletes age at 37 years old, still playing the way he is. So, onward and upward now.
Like I said in our group chat today, he's literally the Russian machine that never breaks. Like, he's almost the same player that he was 15 years ago. And it's amazing about him. He has grown. There's been all the different growth in his game, defensively especially. And then he knows what it's going to take. But, well, Mike, you changed yours. So
I'm definitely not changing mine. And we'll explain why I'm not changing mine to Phil Stradamus a little later on in the show.
All right, but we are going to begin first with the New York Rangers, who you could see some of the final buzzer games whenever Phil has got time. He'll do some Rangers talk after some games. I'll try to always do 60-second game reviews for either the Rangers or the Islanders. And you can always see more of us at BigAppleHockeyPodcast.com. And starting with the Rangers, though, they beat Vegas. They bludgeoned Vegas. That was not even a close game. Oof. Beat Colorado in a shootout and New Jersey in overtime. Now the Filipino OT winner concludes the 3 unanswered goals. The Rangers were down 3-1. And their next 3 games, Toronto, Saturday in Philly, and Sunday at Chicago. And I'm going to be at that game, so I can't wait for that one. Phil, are the Rangers fixed?
I'm not totally convinced yet. Not totally convinced. If they win these 3 games, then something tells me that the ship has been righted. I will say this. That was the gutsiest win I've seen for the Rangers all year. The difference between that game and every other game was that the fight that they were lacking in games where they would go down, and you could see it in their body language and the frustration after goals were scored. Igor Shesterkin slamming his stick after goals are scored, even in practice, slamming his stick after he lets up a goal in practice. They just looked dead in the water. They looked lifeless. They looked like they didn't care. And then all of a sudden, that game just starts getting real chippy and physical towards like the middle of the first period. And you're like, okay, like, this is cool. Some life. This is something they haven't shown in previous games when they're down. Okay, it's different. And then one of the key moments in that game, I said it was the most underrated moment of the game that just doesn't get enough talk about it, is the Chris Kreider goal. That goal late in the first period really kind of helped turn the game around, because if that goal's not scored, it's a completely different game. And goals given up late in periods or can be, I should say, backbreakers for the team that gives them up, and big confidence boosters for the team that scored them. So the Rangers finished that period strong, came out in the second period, and just that the penalty drawn and the penalty shot save for Igor Shesterkin on Jack Hughes right before the 2 goals in 7 seconds was just huge. So the point is, long story short, that there's just a different element right now that I haven't seen all year. And while I'm this close to saying that they're there, I need to see more in order for me to be able to say that they're truly fixed. So when you're getting the efforts that you're getting from guys like Chris Kreider, who I know Marc is going to be real happy to hear this, but Chris Kreider played his best game of the season on Monday night. Yeah, the president of the fan club definitely has to hold back that big smirk that he wants to let go on the camera there. But the lines were the right choice, even though I guess I'll have to take the lesser of two evils with Barclay Goodrow or the necessary evil, I should call it, of Barclay Goodrow on the first line with Zibanejad and Panarin to keep the kids as the second line, and then a nice and much needed physical north-south third line of Kreider, Trocheck, and Jimmy Vesey, which actually played very well. They were the most consistent line all game. So I see signs, but I want more.
Anthony, what do you think? Are the Rangers fixed? Should every Ranger fan calm down right now?
Yeah, I'm pretty similar to Phil. I'm close to saying it. What kind of prevents me from buying all the way in is that, yeah, they beat Vegas convincingly, but as Phil mentioned, I think before our last show that we did before the game, Eichel and Peter Angelo were out. They're top forward and their top defenseman. That
Correct.
really hurt. And then they went to Colorado. And, Igor Shesterkin was really, really good that game. He's really the reason why they won. But Colorado was missing Nathan McKinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, Evan Rodriguez. Nikushkin actually had just came back. He was out. He did play in that game, I believe, but he was out for a while. Arturi Lehkonen was out. They were the walking wounded. So, they should have beat Colorado. So they got big wins, but those teams were a little depleted. I do like the win against New Jersey. It was very gutsy, come from behind. But I still think I want to see this next stretch. Toronto was on an absolute heater. I think they're 9-0-1 in their last 10. That's going to be a tough order for them, a real test, and then go from there. But at the end of the day, they're getting points, and they're back in a playoff spot, which is why I said when all this turmoil was going on, it wasn't the end of the world. They were only a couple points out, and now they're in the second wild card. So. Yeah, despite that, I'm sure what the expectations were going into the year, I'm sure for a lot of people that's not good enough, as everyone expected them to be at the top of the division as opposed to in the second wild card spot. But it's still progress. They still won a bunch of games in a row, albeit what some of the other teams are going through. But a couple more games of them picking up points, and I'll be completely sold. But they're on the right track.
I'm actually not completely sold yet. There are elements that I like. Obviously, the wins are right there. You ever hear the term, and we've said it before, you basically laid it out right there. You got the right teams at the right time. You got St. Louis when they still haven't figured it out. And goodness knows if they're going to. That'll be a different topic, and I don't even have them on the slate for today. But you have Vegas, who was without their top player in Eichel and their top defenseman. Then you get Colorado with injuries. Then you get Jersey, and we're going to get into Jersey a little bit later, but Jersey's got a big stretch of games that it might show who they really are. So, but getting back with the Rangers, I still want to see Kakko and Lafreniere and Hedl getting more ice time. And I think that moving Trocheck and Kreider to another line, and because those two could play together, and now you're playing them as a third unit with Jimmy Vesey. Now that works a little bit better. There's still some more that I'd like to see. You're still not seeing much in the like I said, in the playing time department for Kakko and Lafreniere, because like I said, they've been collecting dust. But you know what? At least now they're not being shelved for the rest of all eternity. So I think he's getting there. I still. If somebody asked me, would I have still fired Gallant last week? Yes, I would have, because they were in free fall. Now, you know what? This is why you're right sometimes, Anthony, and usually I'm not the impulsive one, but it's I do have a little bit of egg on my face for that. Phil, what's the last word on the Rangers this week and looking forward to next week?
So I just responded to a comment in the chat.
Put it back up.
Yeah, I'll put that back up from Music, one of our regulars. He says that he thinks Toronto's the measuring stick right now. I would have to agree. It's funny, we were talking about Toronto earlier on in the year as they're in their own they were in their own tailspin. And now Toronto is on I won't say a similar heater to New Jersey, but they're on a heater in their own way. And they're playing very well. And Mitch Marner, everybody's scoring. Mitch Marner is on his impressive point streak, and they're a buzzsaw right now. So this is going to be a big, big game tomorrow night.
And here's something else. They're getting great goaltending from Ilya Samsonov right now.
Yeah, which is something that we all said was a question mark with them entering the season. We didn't know what the hell they were doing with Samsonov and Matt Murray.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden Ilya Samsonov is playing consistently well for them. They could be a problem tomorrow night. So let's see what happens with that game.
But by the way, before we proclaim them as geniuses, Anthony, we need to see what they're going to do in the playoffs. That's the only thing that matters with Toronto, right?
Yeah, the regular season was never going to really be the issue. It's come playoff time, things are going to be different.
Well, that's what we're going to have to find out. And with the Rangers, or can they get back to where they were from last year? That's a different story too. By the way, let me throw this one out at you because a friend of mine threw this at me on Monday night. Part of the reason why Shesterkin hasn't been great at home is because he's got a newborn. Thoughts on that one?
I mean, it could be possible.
He might not be getting sleep.
He might not be getting enough sleep. I mean, he could be kind of just tired out. He could be stressed out too. I mean, goalies, hockey is a mental game. And I think with goalies, it's even worse because there's so much to digest as a goalie, just like a quarterback in the NFL. Like, there's a lot to digest. You have to read the entire field when you're a quarterback. When you're a goalie, you see everything that's going on in the ice. So you have to you really have to be in the right state of mind when it comes to playing goalie.
I got to ask the only dad out of the three of us. Do you think there's any validity to that?
I mean, he's a professional athlete. It's not like a regular dude. I mean, he's got a pretty important job. I'm sure on game days, I'm sure his wife handles most of the duty there. So I don't know. I don't think that's really affecting him too much. I just think last year he played at a God Hasek level, and this year he's been average. It happens.
Well, he's got to get back to that level again, so the Rangers can get back to where they were last year, and where they were at the beginning of the year with the lofty expectations. What do you guys think? And are the Rangers back? Are they fixed? Throw it all down in the comments below. Don't forget to leave us a like. By the way, everybody, you got to make sure you're hitting the bell, because you got to, if you don't hit the bell, then you just subscribe, and then you still might be missing out on some videos. So let's move on to the New York Islanders, who went 1-1 this week. They had an absolutely dominating win over New Jersey. They were shut out by Carolina, which it says Carolina. There's no extra L. So this one, at least I caught, boys. So there you go. And a shootout loss versus the Boston Bruins last night. Anthony, first things first, by the way, what a hit Alexander Romanov put on Miles Wood.
Yeah.
He literally laid the wood to wood.
Yeah. That was as a textbook and clean hit as you would see. And it's just frustrating that, after every clean big hit in this league, you have to fight, and Romanov got jumped. And, Wood actually said a couple days after the game, he said that he's never been hit that hard in his life and that it was a clean hit. So he acknowledged it. But I guess, it is what it is. Your teammate, you see a guy get destroyed, you want to stick up for him regardless. But yeah, that was a great hit. It was a great game. I know the Devils scored 2 goals in the third period to make it 6-4, but I mean, in reality, the game wasn't really close. The Islanders dominated that game, which was big. They're the second best team in the East. It was a tough matchup for them to see kind of where they stand, and they ran the Devils out of their building. So 1-1. I'm happy how these 3 games went. Yeah, the game against Carolina was an absolute stinker. I mean, Carolina just suffocated them the whole game and gave them absolutely nothing. They couldn't get anything going. But yeah, they played the night before on a back-to-back, but I don't know. I just think they didn't have it. They didn't have it. kudos to Carolina. They played a perfect game. And then last night in Boston, I'm thrilled with the point in the shootout loss. I mean, Boston's the best team in the league. They haven't lost in regulation at home. The Islanders were down 2-0. They were down 3-2. They kept battling back, and they lost in the skills competition. But they played a good game. And even when they went down 2-0, I don't know if you guys were watching the game, but I was like, this sucks. But I wasn't worried because the Islanders were actually outplaying Boston. They were playing in their end. They took a penalty. Parise took a penalty, power play goal. What can you do? And then right after that, it was like, 30 seconds. They got a fluke goal off a skate. So it was 2-0, but you didn't have that feeling like, here we go, because you saw in their game that they were outplaying the Bruins. And, they didn't give up. Like we said, the Islanders always battle back. Varlamov gave them solid goaltending when needed, and unfortunately, they just couldn't find a way to get the extra point. But when you play two of the best teams in the East and you take 3 out of 4 points as an Islander fan, you have to be happy with that. So you take that and you run, and now they head out west to play the Coyotes, which is a very winnable game, and then kind of go from there. But yeah, I'm happy with the way they played, especially without Adam Pelech. I mean, that's a big loss that they're feeling there. Hopefully, he joins the team out west and, he can get back in action. Clearly, he's concussed. They won't say it, but that's what's bothering him. And just hopefully it's not too serious and he gets back in the lineup. But, they're going to get a boost soon. Kyle Palmieri and Anthony Beauvillier are pretty close to coming back, and that will help. Because, last night, their right wing depth boys, after Wahlstrom, it was Clutterbuck, Holmstrom, and Fasching as the rest of the right wingers through the lineup. So they could use Palmieri and Beauvillier back in a big way. So, but yeah, overall, I'm happy with the way these 3 games went. Just, I wish they could have got a goal when they wore the fisherman jerseys for the first time with Carolina. But yeah, so take it away.
Before I throw it down to Phil, what are your thoughts on the new fisherman jerseys?
Brendan Burke actually summarized it perfectly before.
Brilliantly, by the way.
Yeah, he said it really, really well. The fisherman jersey was hated because you had all like the older Islander fans who was there for the dynasty days to see a really great team they could be proud of. And then you take that logo away, the new fisherman logo, at a time when they were bad. It just made them hate it so much because of everything the Islanders stood for. But on the other hand, there was so much of the fan base that liked it because, for me, I was like 8, 9 years old when they came out with the fisherman. So a kid is going to think that's cool. So that's why you have half the Islander fan base that hates it, and then you have another half that love it because it's 2 different kind of trains of thoughts going through the head on it. So, but listen, I don't mind. It's a reverse retro. They're going to wear it 6 times. It's not like they've rebranded again and it's their permanent logo. So for the people who cry about it, I say, like, go just buzz off.
No.
You really got to complain about everything. So
that's something they had to complain about. I actually like the way the new one looks. Before I throw it down to Philk, there's the 16-year-old me who's not even an Islander fan, who keeps looking at the logo because I'm also a Long Islander and playing in the Town of Oyster Bay Championship in '96, seeing the lighthouse, going, the lighthouse was the choice. Should have gone with the lighthouse, but no, not so much.
Yeah, it's funny you just said that.
There you go. See, Mike. There you go. That's the way. Great minds think alike. Phil, what are your thoughts on the Islanders' week? What type of week was it for them?
Up and down. I mean, the Carolina game, I would say that's a blip for them. Carolina's just playing really well. Carolina's playing the same way they played last year, just up-tempo, in your face, suffocating type of hockey. And that's why I thought the Rangers weren't going to beat them, because I thought that they forecheck in waves. They send their defenders. They keep the pressure on. And for a lot of teams, the answer to beat a team like that is transitional play. And the Islanders are a decent transitional team, which is kind of surprising that Carolina just had their way with them. But, the Devils win was a big win. That they absolutely dominated the Devils in that game. And that score is actually kind of misrepresentative of how the game actually went, because they made that game close late when it was really kind of out of reach at that point. So the Islanders really took it to a team that was walking around like Randy Marsh with their nuts in a wheelbarrow, in South Park reference, singing Buffalo Soldier all over the place. And the Islanders just literally just knocked the wheelbarrow right out of their hands and all over the place. So they really took it to them. But the Bruins game, I didn't get to watch the entire game. But Anthony's right, though. They didn't look out of it, and they were really kind of, taking it to Boston for the early part of that game. And then those 2 goals happened. And the second one was real fluky. I mean, that's your typical like Marc Stahl type goal, and where you just yell at Stahl for being in the wrong place at the wrong time and having the 12 millionth puck of his career deflect in his own net off him. So,
which actually is the way that the Islanders tied the game.
Yeah, and the Islanders.
No, the first goal.
What's that?
The first Bailey goal.
I know the way he's referring to that. I'm also saying that the Islanders tied it. Cizikas throwing in front and a hit off of the defenseman shin guard.
That's puck luck. That's puck luck.
That's hockey.
Sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. But the Islanders, I really didn't feel like the Islanders were out of that game either. So, great to get to a shootout with the best team in the league and to give them. But you know what? Like Anthony said, you take 3 out of 4 of 2 of the best teams in the league, and you're pretty happy with that result. But if you're the Islanders and you're an Islander fan, keep on trucking, just as Grateful Dead once said. So that's really it. As for their reverse retro jerseys, just bring back the actual fisherman jersey, because the color scheme on this reverse retro is ugly. Please.
Oh, really? I kind of like it.
Ugly.
All right.
No. Just bring back the actual fisherman jersey. That was much more enjoyable.
Oh, and by the way, just in case if any Ranger fans are thinking, bring back the jerseys back when John Ferguson was in charge of the team, you'll get shot by us. That'll be the truth on that. But Anthony, I gotta also reflect on one thing. First, by the way, let me just give you this thoughts, because as much as we have to talk about the Rangers fixed or this or this or this with them, the Islanders never seem to be out of games. They haven't gotten their doors blown off in a long time. So I think that's why you kind of look at this week and go, yeah, I mean, I'll take it. On the other hand, I still look at that last 10 and going 5-4-1. I mean, you think they might be on a press, ready to go on another run. But then again, I wouldn't be shocked if it ends up being 4-5-1 in the next 10. But because this is probably the toughest stretch they're going to go on. This is a stretch where you punch the schedule maker in the face afterwards. That first you start in Boston. By the way, they started Varlamov last night and not Sorokin. But you start in Boston, then you go to Arizona, then you get Vegas. That's actually a good back-to-back. I mean, I've seen other ones that are much worse. Colorado, hopefully you get Colorado at the right time. You get the Rangers in the Garden and Florida, basically 2 home games to finish up. So what are your thoughts on the stretch that they got, starting with the Bruins last night, I guess continuing it?
I mean, honestly, I feel pretty good about it. Arizona's a team that they can certainly beat. Las Vegas, I mentioned, they're missing a lot of guys right now. I mean, White Cloud's out now for a little bit. I saw the graphic before. There's Peter Angelo, Eichel, White Cloud. There's 2 other guys that are injured too. I can't think of their names at the moment, but they have guys out so they can take advantage. Colorado, as you know, they are starting to get healthier. I know Lehkonen came back the other night. Rodriguez is skating, so I don't know. I'm sure by the time they play him, he might be back. But still, McKinnon will certainly be out, and Landeskog will certainly still be out. So it's a winnable game. Let's face it right now. Colorado right now is pedestrian. They're not the Stanley Cup champs from last year, so it's a game they can win. And then
let's see if the Rangers could actually hold a lead against the Islanders.
Yeah, and then when the Rangers and Islanders play, really everything goes out the window there. So anything can happen. They could win that game or they can lose it. And then Florida's not really a good team right now. So yeah, it's a stretch that it's not. I wouldn't say it's a gauntlet. I think they can go in and have some success on this trip. So listen, for the most part, the way they're going to play. They're always going to give you an effort. That game against Carolina was the outlier there. So they're always going to come out and play their game. They're opportunistic. They wait for other teams to make the mistake and they pounce. And you know what? And it's cliche in sports, but they say your best players need to be your best players. And that's happening. Brock Nelson is at, which we'll talk about later, is at a point per game.
Yeah, don't give it away.
Matt Barzell's still a point per game. So those guys are going. So that's all good news. So I'm looking forward to. It sucks they're not playing tonight or tomorrow, but they'll be back at it on Friday against Arizona.
Well, as usual, I got this ready to go, and ESPN had to fumble it in some way. I'll just play the history-making goal for Alex Ovechkin.
So will not be icing. Forecheck, Mantha centers in front. Kuznetsov had the shot.
And there it is, 800.
Alexander Ovechkin has done it.
And here come the hats and the team.
I got to crack up about that, guys, because Chris Chelios obviously is not a play-by-play or color analyst guy. Steve Levy probably just got that entire call ruined, as Alex Ovechkin becomes the third player to score 800 goals in NHL history. All right, first off, Nostradamus, what you think about last night? For anybody that doesn't know, Philk in our season preview predicted Alex Ovechkin gets 800 against the Chicago Blackhawks.
You know what? It's funny because I totally forgot that I had picked that night until you sent me the video. And I was like, what the hell is this? Why is he sending me a season preview video? And I look at it, and I'm listening to it, and there's Ovechkin, and then I'm like, holy crap, wow. I can't believe I did that. Yeah, I you know what? Good for him. It kind of reminds me in a way of when Gretzky needed 4 goals to get number 50 in his 39th game to pass Mike Bossy's record for the quickest 15-50. And he did it with, it was 4 goals to tie and 5 goals against Philadelphia at the Northlands. And he scored 5 goals. He scored that empty net goal to do it. So, yeah, Ovechkin, it's kind of like that in today's game. But Ovechkin needed 3 goals to get 800, and he does it in one night, gets another hat trick. Guy is just incredible. Most road goals in NHL history with 409, as you can see there. This guy is incredible. I don't even know how to describe it other than the fact that he's just truly special. I just remember watching him for the very first time in the World Juniors back in Center Ice, because like back in the day, Center Ice used to have the World Junior coverage before they went to NHL Network. And I watched this guy, and I was like, this kid's like 6'2". He's like 195, 200 pounds already. I'm like, this guy's going to be a monster at the NHL level. Then he goes, and I get to watch him at the World Cup in 2004 before the lockout. I'm like, wow, this kid's definitely NHL ready. Like, he's going to be everything is advertised. This guy's going to be elite. Then everything comes back. And I'm watching his first game against Columbus because I'm tuned into this, just like Anthony probably was. And I'm sitting there. I was like, this guy just blasted too. This guy's just going to be incredible. And those first few years, I think maybe aside from Connor McDavid and Pavel Bure, I think Alexander Ovechkin was the most exciting player that I'd ever seen those first few years, because he took a combination of like Pavel Bure's speed and shooting, and then someone like Brendan Shanahan's size and physicality, and mashed them all together into one just gigantic, nasty Russian prototype that just went through people. I mean, I just remember watching that video that somebody edited to Aerosmith's Dream On.
Oh, yeah. On YouTube.
On YouTube. And you would watch the highlights, and he's dangling through teams left and right. And you're just like, what is this? Like, what kind of friggin' sorcery is this? And he just incredible. Like, he's going to go down as the greatest goal scorer ever. It's not a matter of if he passes Wayne now. It's a matter of, can he break 1,000?
Yeah.
That's actually a great question, because that is in the poll right now. The man wearing the number 8 on his necklace. What's your thoughts on the Alexander Ovechkin legacy?
Yeah. I mean, he quickly became my favorite player once he entered the league. I mean, I was just captivated by his this combination of everything that he brought. He can go through you, he can dangle around you. He could practically shoot the puck through the net. He would blow you up with a hit. I mean, he was must see TV. And I see now why Rick Dudley in Florida tried to draft him in 2003, but the league wouldn't allow him to do it. He tried to make a case of being that it was something with a leap year that he should have been eligible. But he really changed the course of the Capitals franchise. I mean, they were a really bad team, and he got there, and first year or two was rough, but he really brought them respectability again. And it was just such an exciting time, especially him coming up with Crosby too in the same year, and the rivalry they built, and
right away.
Yeah.
Best rookie class ever.
I kind of said, Ovechkin and Crosby coming to the league that year kind of, saved hockey, because they were just coming out of the lockout, and they really, injected a lot of excitement into the league again. But man, Ovechkin, he's morphed and changed his game through the years as he's matured. He's not as reckless anymore. Granted, he's older. His body won't hold up like he did when he was, 25. But the fact that he was just so consistent with the way that he could still score at the level that he does. I mean, 50 goals last year at the age of 36, and now he's 37, and he may score over 50 again. It's just unbelievable. And, the funny thing is, there were a couple of years back where I think it was a year or two where his numbers really took a dip, and everyone's starting to say, is Ovechkin, what the deal is.
2011, 2012.
Yeah. But then he's come back since, and he's shoved all that down everyone's throats who doubted him, because he's back to the level where, he was prior to that. He's just, and I think that just goes to show his understanding of, as he gets older, you have to change maybe your habits, the way you eat, the way you train. I'm not going to speculate. Maybe he got a little lackadaisical with his work ethic, and maybe in the off season those years. But whatever he's done differently since then, he's been nothing short of amazing. And it's now he's one away from Gordie Howe, which he's certainly going to do. And I think I don't really think, like Phil said, it's not really a matter if anymore if he passes Gretzky. It's just a matter of how much higher can he go. And Phil brought up 1,000. PK Subban last night after the game threw out a number, and he was saying that he thinks it's possible. And that would just be mind-blowing to me if he could still manage to score 200 goals. But, his contract after this year, his contract is up in 3 more seasons. So depending on how long he wants to play, I think the sky's the limit for him.
Well, also, I just threw up this stat. Most games to score 100 goals in his career was 190 between 500 and 600. So You're talking about a guy that needs 2 seasons to score 100 goals. If he plays 4 years at that rate, that puts him at 41, 42. He might do it. And I've said before about him, he's got the Brett Hull ability of just finding the open spot and just rifling it. So once his legs go, he's still there. Now, first about him and his performance, because he really fits in the mold of the many, many, many players that came before him. Steve Yzerman with Scotty Bowman, and Mario Lemieux with Scotty Bowman, Ken Hitchcock, and Mike Modano. Great players that were great offensively, and then their defensive coach comes in and says, you got to sacrifice a little offense for the defense. And he's still putting up 50 goals all the time. He's a guy that still has his niche. The thing I just think 2018 really brought front and center to me was his likability. Like, I always thought his likability was there, and it was there. It was just, he wasn't on my team. That's why I hated him. And he always scored against the team I rooted for. And there's so many players that could say that. Oh, first of all, by the way, Sidney Crosby and Alexander Ovechkin could say that about the Philadelphia Flyers. But it's just, he's always been that likable guy. Ranger fans, you might remember 2015, after that hard-fought Game 7, he's shaking hands with Lundqvist and says, you guys were great. Go win the Stanley Cup. And he's supportive of other guys around the league. And I think a little bit was overblown about the Crosby-Ovechkin feud, but I've got about 10 seconds to finish up this thought. He's just great. Now 2018, you're able to wake up and realize how great this guy really is. So looking back on that, I still have to ask you three. I'm one of the three. Got to ask you guys one of the question. Anthony, we'll start with you since you're the Ovechkin just enthusiast. What moment did he really amaze you? And I want to talk about something. I would love to say, were you there to see it or were you watching it on TV?
I mean, so many. But aside from like watching like YouTube highlights, like especially that Dream On one that Phil mentioned, because that amazed the hell out of me. But aside from that, one specific moment I can remember, it was that playoff game against Pittsburgh.
The dueling hat tricks game.
Yes,
The dueling hat tricks game. Yeah.
And it was just like, Crosby hat trick, and he's like, yeah, well, fine. Crosby gets a hat trick. He's like, I'm gonna one up him. It was just to me that was like, wow, this guy truly is unbelievable. He essentially willed his team. And I was sitting there watching that game thinking like I would do anything for a guy like this on my team. But
yeah.
and by the way, just before we get Philks, just to talk about that series, a lot of the criticism of him at that time was, he celebrates every goal like he just won the Stanley Cup in double overtime Game 7.
It's the playoffs.
You got to ask the question: does he get it? He scores a goal in Game 7. They're down 5-0. He just raises his stick and goes to the bench. You're like, all right, he gets it. He gets it because that's another one of those moments of maturity I saw with him. Phil, what's one of the moments that amazed you with Ovechkin?
Low-hanging fruit, but it's that goal. It's just that goal. I've had, like I said, I've had center ice just for a very, very long time, probably about 20 years now that I've had it. And I was watching that game. I was going back and forth between games, and I just remember listening to Kurt Keelback and Darren Pang on the call, and he goes back, and it took me about a good 5 minutes to understand what exactly happened. Because when it happened, I'm like, I literally yelled out, how did it end up in the net? How? And then you just see Paul Mara and Curtis Joseph, and Paul Mara just goes like this. Like, are you kidding me? and just my mind was blown. And then you hear Keelback and Panger just like, they can't believe it. Nobody can believe what's happening. Wayne Gretzky's face is another friggin' story. Like, you just wowed the greatest player that has ever played the game, and you floored him. You floored him.
And it's not like he didn't have that many great goals.
Oh my God! It just, you know what? I knew that he was going to be something special, but when he did that, it was just like, okay, this guy, there may be a level to this guy that we've never seen before in terms of pure goal scoring. So,
and then on top of that, a similar goal, I think it's actually better than that one, is I'll tell you the moment that amazed me in 1 second was the one on Carey Price that he was on his ass and he wristed it by him.
Oh, geez. We've seen goals like that before, but that might be the best one from that position.
I was at the Garden and I saw this live. A friend of mine, just like you, Anthony, huge Ovechkin fan, wears number 8. His birthday is actually August 8th, so that helps. But I got him tickets and we went to the game. It was Rangers and Capitals, obviously. And he goes inside, outside on Michael Roosevelt and one-hands it top shelf on Lundqvist with like under a minute remaining. And
I remember that game.
Second. And I'm watching that and I just went, did he just one hand that top shelf?
Yep.
Like, it's almost like the Sidney Crosby.
That was like 08, 09, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. I want to say it was 09 or 010 was one of those. But it was amazing. That's what these guys, because we're going to do one of these episodes for Sidney Crosby eventually. I mean, these two guys are going to go down. To use the word generational player, I think we're underselling them. So, but we got a lot more we got to cover for you guys. So what is your favorite Ovechkin memory? Go ahead, say it's beating the Capitals for the Islander fans and the Ranger fans. That also all works. Throw it down in the comments below because we are going to move on. We got some bar talk, and then we got a great segment for you after that.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever had to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. I still laugh about that. Anthony ripping on me for that question. That's still one of the best ones, guys. But welcome back to Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, where we are gauging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. Oh dear God, just give me a shot. You're not that confident. So I'll take a beer. Are you so confident you're buying everybody around? Make sure you play along down in the comments below, guys. And we're gonna start right here for you, Phil. The New York Rangers should keep Filipino.
I'm going to buy around because the question says should. The real question is whether they will actually keep Filipino. But
all right, how about this? Let me change that right now. Are they going to keep Filipino?
Ooh, so now you're going to move the goalposts at me. Okay.
I have to. You tell me it's more interesting when it's like that. I have to do that.
I like it. You got stones, Mark. I like it. Will they keep Filipino? I'm going to say beer then, because I think that they're going to have a decision to make in the offseason. But Filipino has definitely turned a corner. He has turned a corner, and he earned the trust of the coach to be able to be out there in overtime with Artemi Panarin, and it paid dividends the other night. And Heedle's having those games where it makes you think that you talk about maturity moments with Ovechkin. I think Heedle's having a few of those. So,
Anthony.
I'm going to go beer. I think that out of their kids, Lafreniere Kako, I think he's clearly the best right now. I think he's probably more skilled too, honestly, at least what he's showing. And I think that gives them good center depth as the third line center. My question is, the Rangers are always tempted to make that big move, and, come the trade deadline, there's the whispers of Patrick Kane, Bo Horvat's out there. If Dolan wants the Rangers to make a big trade, I think Heedle's going to be the guy also for salary purposes going the other way. He makes 2.3. That would help. That he would be the guy that would be, offered up that teams may want. So question then becomes, do you want to give up Heedle for a potential rental in Horvat and definitely a rental in Kane? I don't know. I don't know if I would do it. But I think that might come into play. So that's why I'm not going round here, because I think he would be in demand for one of those guys if the Rangers want to shake things up with a big trade.
I just wonder exactly what his role is going to be going forward. And I think that's why I don't want to say round or shot. So I have to say beer on this. I think they might need to toughen up one of those center spots. But you know what? That's what Vinny Trocheck is here for. So hopefully that means Filipino stays, because I thought he was going to be traded for Andrew Kopp, and instead he ends up staying, and he just looked like he was out muscling people in the playoffs. The coach has got to show more faith in him. I got to agree with you on that, guys. They got to show more. He's got to show more faith in him. So, guys, Brock Nelson this season, 14 goals, 16 assists, and 30 points. And he has been nobody saw that. Brock Nelson has been the most important New York Islanders forward. I got to go to our resident New York Islanders man.
I got to go with a round. I know we all know Matt Barzal is more dynamic, but Brock Nelson is putting up the points that he is, also while being used as a matchup center at some time. And it's funny because going back years ago, really before Trotz got there, and I kind of agreed with Phil, because I had the same frustrations, but Nelson was always a guy that really, really good wrist shot, would give you, 23 goals, but much to be desired in other areas of the game. Trotz got there, and he's become a different player ever since. He had a career year last year, 37 goals and 59 points. And at 31 now, it seems like he's getting better. I mean, he's on pace to beat his career year from last year in points. And also looking like he could score over 35 goals again too. So all the while being someone that's relied on at the end of the game. I think that, listen, if Barzal went down, the Islanders would be really screwed. But I mean, Brock Nelson is really, really important to this team's success. I mean, he really does it all for him. So one thing I'll say about him is that I think he's starting to make people realize that he's one of the better second line centers in the league between last 2 years or so in the way he's playing this year, because prior to that, he's been pretty underrated.
Phil,
this is a layup. It's round. Like Anthony alluded to before. Anthony said a lot of the things that I would want to say, but I was hard on Nelson for a while. I was really, really harsh with him, and he just very, very, very lazy, inconsistent player that always looked like he could give you more. I was actually very high on him his draft year because I'm a North Dakota fan with college hockey. So I followed Nelson at North Dakota, and I was very, very high. I thought the Islanders were getting a very good player when they got him. And for years, floundered around, just kind of like this, yeah, he's there, but he's all right, kind of player. And then Barry Trotz came along and just pushed the right button with him and unlocked the next level with Brock Nelson. So, he's definitely their most important player. He's a matchup guy. He's their best pure goal scorer right now, hands down. Even though you would say Oliver Wahlstrom's probably got their best shot, but in terms of production, Brock Nelson's the guy that puts up the goals, and he's their most consistent goal scorer and has been for the last few years now. So I'll go out and I'll leave it on this. Brock Nelson continues to play the way that he plays. He's going to give USA Hockey a real problem keeping him off that roster with the talent that USA Hockey has going on for the World Cup of Hockey in 2024. So Brock Nelson, good job. If you want to represent the U.S., you're going to have to fight. And he looks like he's really throwing his gloves down and stepping in the middle of that ring to get that spot.
you guys said everything that I wanted to say. Matchup center. He's put up his first 30-goal season. I got to buy around on it as well, boys, because Brock Nelson really is showing his value to this franchise, and you just gotta appreciate that. Sit back and enjoy the show. I do think if they lost Brock Nelson, Anthony, that would be something very bad for the Islanders. Starting with, we were talking about it before, the Islanders beat the New Jersey Devils 6-4 on Friday. The Devils are 0-2-1 in their last 3 games. The Devils are getting a bit of a dose of reality right now. And let me throw this one up for you guys. Starting from that Islander game to January 1st to New Year's Day. So right now you have the loss to the Islanders, the OT loss to the Rangers, and the loss to Dallas. They get Philly, then Florida, at Carolina, at Florida, Boston, so 2 against Boston, at Pittsburgh, and versus Carolina. Now we will see what you're made of, and I'm going to actually buy around on this one too. This is going to be interesting. I mean, it's not like that didn't go off right. Schmid played a hell of a game last night. He at least made 2 or 3 saves that I went, oh, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. But they got to hope their goaltending holds up. So, Felk, we'll go to you.
I'm going to say beer. I think this is going to be a tough test. I think they're a legitimate team, though. And I think
I do too.
Better. You know what? So, all right, let me go back. So by getting a dose of reality, what are we getting at here? What's the actual overall point of that headline? Like, are they in trouble, or like, what are you trying to say?
Yeah, you like trying to say
they're gonna go on a bit of a rough stretch.
The Devils are gonna face a rough stretch. Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna face a rough stretch.
I don't want to buy around. I'm close just because 4 games against 2 against the Bruins, 2 against Carolina,
and 1 against Pittsburgh.
and one against Pittsburgh. I think those are all going to be tough games for them. Are we talking about the actual record that they're going to have afterwards, or just the fact that they're playing tough teams?
I think it's going to be the record.
The record? Okay. I'm going to say beer then.
Okay.
I will say beer just because, you know what? I think they are going to struggle just a little bit because, you know what? Usually when you play back-to-backs or you play teams consecutively, in very close quarters like that, usually you'll win one game and you'll lose the other. So I think we're really going to see what they're really made of in this stretch. I think this is going to be like a season-defining stretch for them. If they go through this and they show up, and they pass this with flying colors, then you're looking at that team as probably the best team in the NHL. And if it goes wrong, then you're going to start to say to yourself, were we really too high on Lindy too early? Doubts will start to creep in. What if Vanacek starts to falter? What if
or gets injured? He usually does.
I mean, I'm not going to say anything about injuries because that's not something you normally plan. Well, I mean, you do kind of have to expect them because they do happen. But, Jack Hughes' injury was not something that's, just a run-of-the-mill thing, I would say. But, what if Vanacek just was on a hot streak or something like that? These things could happen. So,
Anthony.
Beer. I think they are, a legitimate team. But, playing Boston twice and then Pittsburgh and Carolina, that's a real tough 4 games. And, and there's no shame in losing to the Islanders and Rangers. Those are good teams too. And Dallas is as well. So I don't think they're in trouble or anything, but I do think now that they're going to be faced with some possible adversity with being 0-2-1 in their last 3 and having some tough teams come up, it's gonna push them. It's gonna see what they're made of. But at the end of the day, I still think they're going to be, at the top of the league and, going to be a playoff team. But on the other hand, they could come out of this and, kind of, run the table on some of these teams. Now you're sitting there yourself saying, wow, the Devils are scary good. So we'll see which way it goes.
Yeah,
there might be Rick Generate, Anthony.
What?
What are you, Rick Generate now? They're scary good.
Oh yeah.
Over here, bud.
Yeah.
Hey guys, you know who's tied for 5th in the league in the NHL for goals? Bo Horvat. He is tied with Alexander Ovechkin after last night, and rumor is he's on the trade block and negotiations are breaking down. Bo Horvat will be traded much earlier than the March 3rd trade deadline. Mr. LaRocco.
I think you changed this on me a little bit. I don't know if I put much, but so I don't
know.
Well,
you said before the trade deadline, which could be March 2nd. I wanted to push it up a little.
I could see him being traded sometime next month in January or early February. I think, when it gets to the point where you release a statement through the team saying that, you're only focused on playing for the Canucks right now, or you're not going to talk at this time. I'm not going to talk about my future anymore. I mean, now that's out in the open that he rejected their offers and that he's officially on the block, I can't really see this dragging out till the March 3rd trade deadline. To me, it seems that they don't want it to be a distraction and they'd probably rather move on sooner than later. So, I'll still go round, but I'll say, but for me, much earlier still means maybe sometime in January, not next week. But I do think he's gonna go a lot earlier.
February would also be much earlier.
Yeah.
Phil.
I'm going to say round. I think he's traded sometime in maybe the end of January, beginning of February. I wouldn't shock me if it's even earlier than that, just because of the fact that, like you said, the negotiations have already broke down. It's done. And I think Vancouver would be smart just to move on from him now. The problem is now it takes 2 to tango. So now you got to find a team that's willing to give up what you're looking for right now. And teams might not be willing to do that. So that's why I don't think it's necessarily going to be sometime like this week. But I mean, if we're looking at the end of January, I wouldn't be shocked if he's dealt before February. But definitely sometime in February, I think he's dealt at the latest, because I think it's just going to come down to teams wanting to wait out the Canucks for them to lower their asking price. and that's really going to be it.
Well, that's really it. But I'll say this: I'm gonna go around with you guys. I think Anthony, I think you're onto something here. I think it's going to be closer to Valentine's Day than it is closer to the actual trade deadline. They're going to move on from them because right now they are 4 points out of a playoff spot, and they haven't been playing well. They haven't gotten their game together. Goodness knows. I mean, that was supposed to be my surprise team of the year, and they're not even anywhere near it. I'd love it if the Canucks got their stuff together, but it's not going to happen. I don't think it is. Guys, probably the hottest player in the NHL is Mitch Marner. 23 games with a point, 11 goals, 21 assists, 32 points. Mitch Marner's scoring streak puts him in the MVP conversation. Mr. Fokowski.
This is a round, easy round. Another layup, Mark. You're lobbing me alley oops on like a 3 foot high basketball hoop right here. So this is easily a round. He's playing like the best player in the league right now. Sans McDavid, and as we always say every year, you give one of those 3 spots out to Connor McDavid for the Hart voting. But Mitch Marner is definitely right there right now because Toronto's resurgence has a lot to do with him.
Anthony.
I mean, what he's doing is really, really impressive. But I'm gonna say Beer only because he's 10th in the league in scoring, but you just look, there's so many guys. Obviously, McDavid's doing ridiculous things right now, so he's always going to be in the conversation. But, Jason Robertson, even though, he had, 40 goals last year, I think this year he's really opening eyes. I think he's certainly a strong contender for the Hart early on. And then you got Sidney Crosby at his age to still be doing what he's doing, and the Penguins aren't going away. I think he's going to get some talk about, MVP votes. Buffalo's bad, so it's not going to happen. But Tage Thompson, 44 points, 3rd in the league in scoring. He's been absolutely amazing. So I just think there might be some of the guys ahead of him that might get some more recognition than he will. But, I mean, he's certain what he's doing to be that consistent and score literally every single night is really impressive.
And you know what? I'm going to buy around. I mean, I've been listening to everybody talking about it. I think he's only 10th in the league in scoring. I think that's what kind of mars it a little bit for me, but also that tells you how bad he was playing beforehand. So he's up there. He's been playing great this year. Can he keep it up? We'll see about that, because it's funny you mentioned one thing, Anthony. You talked about Jason Robertson, and he's got 23 goals and 20 assists, 43 points. At the end of the year, Jason Robertson should be an MVP finalist. Anthony.
I'm going to go around if he keeps it up. I mean, yeah, certainly. He's 4th in the league in scoring right now. He's what's really driving Dallas. I mean, Ben and Sagan playing like they're actual, resembling good hockey players again helps. But, I mean, Robertson is really the driving force behind that team. Rope Hintz is really good too, but Robertson really does it all for him. He's just an unbelievable scorer. I don't think he's going anywhere. Obviously guys like McDavid are still going to have more points and, probably win the, Art Ross or point total. I don't think he's going to get there, but I don't think that should mean he, gets any votes taken away from him. I think he should easily be one of the 3 finalists.
Phil.
Yeah, I'm going to buy around on this one. If he continues what he's doing, then yeah, absolutely. He's on pace for like 110 points or something like that and 50 goals or something. It's ridiculous what he's doing. And when I said that I won't be changing my name rather to Phil Stradamus, this was what I was alluding to, because in that same video that I predicted Ovechkin to score 800 against Chicago, I also predicted Boston. Everybody was sleeping on them. But I missed big time on Dallas because I said that they were going to be my biggest disappointment, and they're leading their division. They're 2nd in the West. And I said part of the reason why was that Jason Robertson might have trouble repeating his success. And he has done the exact opposite and absolutely blown his numbers out of the water. So I am not playing any type of lottery numbers anytime soon or anything like that. So, yeah. Again, this is a round.
And Phil, that's where perspectives come in, because I think I had the Dallas Stars as one of the underrated teams that I do. Because again, Pete DeBoer, this is what he does. He skyrockets some of these guys in like his first or his second year. Pavelski played for him in San Jose. It's just when you get to year 3 and 4, that's really where the problems start creeping in. So I'm going to go with a round because I think Jason Robertson's on the cusp of being a superstar. It's coming soon. Just be ready for it. I think we're seeing it right now, so we don't even have to be ready for it. It's right here. And we got one last one, guys, because Gary Bettman is approaching 30 years of being an NHL commissioner. And I'm going to start this one because I know Phil is going to throw up in his mouth when I actually say these words. But Gary Bettman is the best commissioner in team sports right now. And I think the way I have to phrase this is almost a race to the bottom for all these commissioners, because I have no idea what Adam Silver does. Rob Manfred's trying to destroy baseball. And the less said about Roger Goodell, the better. And I end up buying around out of this because he's the one that he's the only commissioner in NHL history. Sorry, I can't say yes to that.
I can.
And some reasons I won't get into on this show, but it's the expansion around the world. Bettman's done so much. Go ahead, Phil. Have at it.
No. What? All right. So you want to expand around the world? That's great. What about marketing in the country that your league is designated, your league plays in, that your league is located out of? What about marketing to, all the cities that, that your teams play in? How about trying to make your players household names, which they do nothing for? The players, listen, the players are, hockey is all this cliche, cut and dry personality type sport where you don't get those lively personalities like you do in football and basketball and even baseball. But he doesn't even know how to market the game. And the NHL's marketing is just terrible. And if they did a better job of it, and you know what, good to them to get the ESPN and TNT deals, but they have so much more to do to market themselves and grow the game. And it's great that they're having these, exhibition games over in Europe and stuff like that at the start of the season, but start doing more to market the game here and market the game better. Gary's probably the worst out of the 4 commissioners at that, hands down.
Anthony?
Yeah, I don't follow the NBA at all, so I don't know enough about Silver to say, when we compare Silver and Bettman. I do know Manfred and Goodell pretty terrible. But yeah, I mean, Bettman hasn't really done much to grow the game in terms of marketing. That's one thing for sure. But he has done some good things for the game too. I mean, the expansion, Seattle and Vegas, those markets have really took off. He's the
Tampa
European
Bay, another one.
Yeah, but I mean, and also when it comes to like lockout stuff, you got to remember that he works for the owners. The owners essentially, tell him what to do. So I know a lot of people give him heat on the lockouts that have happened in the past, but some of that blame has to be put on the owners, not solely on him. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag with Bettman. So for me to say, round, it would kind of just be like, just because I really don't know enough about like Silver, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have his warts, because Bettman does have his warts, believe me.
All those commissioners have warts. We've already gone over scandals that have happened in the NHL the last couple times, and yeah, all these leagues have had a lot of things they've had to answer over the last 30 years.
Yeah,
I just hope that the next commissioner does grow the players a lot more than what Bettman has done, because he understands, at least it's the franchises. You follow the franchises, they're going to be there forever. So, guys, that's the end of Bar Talk for Big Apple Hockey. So, you guys agree with us on a lot of these things? Throw them down in the comments below. How have you been doing with a lot of these? I saw a couple really good comments in there. So, but we are going to go to one of our favorite new segments, and that is Who Says No? Yep, there it is.
It's a no for me.
Why
It's a no for me, dog.
No.
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 Okay, so that was fumbled a little bit, but still rescued. All right, so this, guys, is Who Says No, where we take a bunch of mock trades and say which team would be the one that says no in that deal. Obviously, you got to stand your ground. You got to you can't give up too much. Anthony, the first one we got is for your New York Islanders. The New York Islanders acquire Patrick Kane from the Blackhawks for a 2023 first, Anthony Beauvillier, Atu Ratu, and Samuel Bolduc. Who says no?
As much as I would love Kane on the Islanders are saying no to this. Samuel Bolduc has been one of the best defensemen in the AHL this year. He's amongst the top leaders in scoring. Atu Ratu is their best prospect. And those two guys alone, I don't think Lou's willing to move for a rental. He's not Kyle Palmieri or Pajot that are pretty much, you could assume they would definitely re-sign. Who knows, but Kane may want to go back to Chicago, to wherever he's traded from. So I don't think it would be a lock at all that he would stay. The first, it sucked to lose the first in Beauvillier, but Ratu and Bolduc are the two pieces that I don't think Lou has really any interest in trading for a guy that he knows that he won't be able to re-sign for sure. So, I say that the Islanders would say no to this.
Philk.
I think the Islanders would probably say no to it as well, just because of the fact that it's a lot to give up for Patrick Kane, who I don't think would re-sign there anyway. I think he would end up hitting free agency, and he may even want to go back to Chicago for all we know. So I think if the package was smaller, I think if you looked at the 2023 first, Anthony Beauvillier, and then one of Ratu and Bolduc, or one of Ratu or Bolduc, then maybe a deal gets done.
I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with the Islanders saying no. They'd probably go, the Lude's not going to trade that much. That's almost like I'm thinking about the trade he got that landed Kovalchuk. That was Peter Bergfors, a first round pick.
Christian Bergfors.
All right.
Yeah.
What? He doesn't even remember his own name. Who the hell cares if I got it wrong?
You were thinking Peter Forsberg.
Yeah, Forsberg. Oh, Jesus. All right, look, sometimes it doesn't work out for me when I remember things. All right, but still, I mean, he didn't give up a king's ransom to get him in the end. So I think that's what he's going to try to do, because we're going to move on to the next one, and I'll start this one off. The New York Rangers acquire Patrick Kane from the Blackhawks for Filipino, a first-round pick next year, Brendan Hoffman, and Matthew Robertson. I'll start this off. The Rangers say no. I think Brendan Hoffman's going nowhere. Phil.
No, absolutely not. The Rangers say no. And there's no way that they give them up. But Hoffman was a guy who scored 50 goals last year in the OHL. He was second goal scoring. Matthew Robertson's kind of held or fell down their depth chart a little bit. He's been all right in Hartford. His development hasn't gone the way that they would have expected. But Filipino alone is going to probably be a no for them. And then on top of that, Hoffman and Robertson, no. If you were to say the two first-round picks and then maybe a lesser prospect than Hoffman and Robertson, then I would say okay. But definitely a no to this one for the Rangers.
All right, Anthony.
Yeah, Rangers are saying no. I think the inclusion of Hoffman's too much. I do think if they want Kane, the Blackhawks would ask for Hedl. We got to remember salary purposes too. Hedl makes $2.3 million, so it would help the Rangers out in the trade. But I don't really think they have any appetite to trade Brendan Othman at all. Again, especially for a rental.
Especially for a rental. No,
Yeah.
I think even if he resigns, why would you take it for the aging veteran? So, that's another one. Here's something I can actually see something like this happening. So this is an interesting one. The New Jersey Devils acquire Timo Meier from the San Jose Sharks for a first-round pick, Alexander Holtz, and Fabian Zetterlund. Phil.
I think San Jose would say yes. I think New Jersey would say no. I think Jersey would say no just because I don't think they want to give up a first and Holtz. I think at this point, they're not worried about their first round pick where that's going to be, but it's Alexander Holtz that they're really high on, who I think is closer to being ready than people think. I could see Meier re-signing with the Devils, but that would mean that the Devils would have to move pieces out, and I think that would further complicate their cap situation because they're going to have a lot of pieces that they're going to have to give contracts to in the future. So you're going to have to give Vanacek a new deal. Luke Hughes is going to come up, and I think he's going to be great for them. Mm-hmm. And I think if New Jersey's smart, they're going to want to lock him down a lot earlier and get him at a real good rate so they can keep a lot of their core together. So I think Jersey says no to this because Alexander Holtz, I think, is going to become a 30-goal scorer one day.
Anthony.
I could certainly see the Devils going after Meier if the Sharks put him on the market. This is actually something I could see, working out. I do think the Devils would want to tinker it and maybe remove Holtz. Maybe put Dawson Mercer there, but again, he's pretty valuable too. But because I don't think the Devils would
contract.
Yeah, I don't think the Devils would be able to get Meier for just, let's say, Zetterlund in the first. I think someone else would have to be in there. So I agree. I think the Sharks say yes. I think the Devils say no, but I think it would be close to getting done if they just kind of rework it a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not sure anybody says no. I think if you're going to ask me who says no, the Devils. I think the Devils are going to be in a position maybe where they start thinking that they could strike while the iron's hot. If the caveat to this is Meier talks to the Devils and signs immediately an extension, then this can happen.
Well, remember, he's going to be an RFA, not a UFA, so at least they have that on their side.
Right. That is, and
I mean, as we've seen, RFAs could still have give trouble to re-sign. Look at the Will Nylander incident where he didn't sign until December 1st in the deadline.
Yeah, or potentially right Alex DeBrincat, who you have a huge qualifying offer for him. So
yeah, and Timo Meier's qualifying offer is like $10 million.
Mm-hmm.
And all right, well, I mean, maybe the Devils can rework it and get Peter Bergfors in there. So anyway, this, by the way, this is the most amount that Christian Bergfors has been talked about in the last 10 years. So
he's actually Nicholas. I could be wrong too.
It could be. Who cares?
That actually sounds more right, Nicholas.
I do think Nicholas sounds better. So
yeah, I think it's Nicholas actually.
How about this one? This is sort of a blockbuster. I mean, it's not happening, but we wanted to say who says no. Anthony, Buffalo acquires Andrei Svechnikov from Carolina for Tage Thompson. Who says no?
Man, I mean, Svechnikov's loved in Carolina, and obviously Thompson is in Buffalo. Prior, even though Thompson had a good year last year, prior to last year, I'd probably say Carolina. But I think this year I don't know. I think Buffalo says no. And that's no slight on Svechnikov. I mean, Svechnikov is a really good player. But Thompson, I mean, he's so big in his size, and he's turning into such a force out there. I mean, for a guy to be as big as him and skilled, that would be a really hard player to give up, even though Svechnikov is an absolute, a gem as well. So, Yeah, I go and say Buffalo says no, but man, it's
All
yeah,
right,
tough
Phil,
one.
because the faces you've been making through this have been amazing.
How is this even a discussion right now? It should stop after Buffalo says no. It's not even close right now. Andrei Svechnikov is a good player, but Tage Thompson, if he was playing on a contender, would be the MVP frontrunner right now with what he's doing. This is not even close. God.
I gotta agree with Phil. I think this isn't even close either. Right now, Tage Thompson is being the star that they just imagined he was going to be when they acquired him. I do have to. I'm just gonna say Buffalo says no, and let me throw this back to you guys. Is that a win-win trade for both teams?
No.
That was Riley going there and winning.
You're talking. I thought you were talking about this being a win-win. No.
I'm sorry. I meant to say the actual trade that got Tage Thompson over there. They gave up on a kid from St. Louis, by the way.
Yeah,
Tage Thompson from St. Louis.
Yeah, they did, and you got a Stanley Cup and a Conn Smythe out of Ryan O'Reilly,
and a team captain.
And he's still playing well. So yeah, it is a win-win. Buffalo has got all right. So Buffalo, in terms of skaters, has had 3 really big stars in their 50-plus years of playing. 3 really big stars. Gilbert Perreault, Pat LaFontaine, and Alexander Ovechkin. And Tage Thompson is turning out to be the biggest star that they've had since McGillney and LaFontaine. That's how Tage Thompson has been. He was better. He's better now than Jack Eichel at his peak years was in Buffalo.
That's saying something. Something. Anthony, last word, win-win trade for them?
In this trade right here?
Oh no, the actual Tage Thompson trade that got him to Buffalo.
Oh, when I mean, yeah, St. Louis, they obviously got a cup. And RRR was a piece that kind of put them over the edge. So I guess you could say yes, but long term, Buffalo is going to be the winner on that deal for sure.
I do have to highlight this comment before I get on, guys. Brian saying Pierre Turgeon is spinning.
I was just about to respond to that, Brian. You mean to tell me that Pierre Turgeon was as good in his prime or his peak in Buffalo as he was with the Islanders? No. Pierre Turgeon had his best year with the Islanders by far, and Pierre Turgeon at the time that he was in Buffalo wasn't even close to being one of the best players in the league. Tage Thompson is definitely one of the best players in the league right now. And Hasek
continues that upward trajectory.
Hasek was not a skater. So I'm not counting Hasek in that.
We have one person that says Carolina says no, which is interesting.
What? How did Carolina say no to that? Center is a more premium position than right wing. And not only that, but look at the numbers and look at what Thompson's doing on a team with a younger team.
Oh, when in doubt, you have to go to the center. We got one more potential trade for us, and that is the Colorado Avalanche acquire Jonathan Toews from the Blackhawks for a 2023 first-round pick and Alex Newhook. Anthony.
The Avalanche say no. As much as I think they're going to be in the market for a center as they've been linked to the Bo Horvat, I think Toews will be another guy who would be on their radar, the experience and everything he brings. But I don't think they would want to trade. I mean, maybe a first because Toews is Jonathan Toews. You're going to pay just for the name, even though he's maybe not as productive as he once was. But Newhook on top of that, probably not. So I say that the Avalanche say no, but I still think they would look to acquire Jonathan Toews.
Phil?
Yeah, I'm with Anthony on this one. Colorado says no. Toews could be a target, but it's definitely not for a first-round pick and Alex Newhook. If you wanted to say something like a first-round pick and Martin Kaut and another maybe a prospect or something like that, a lower-level prospect, okay. And I think the first-round pick might have to be in there just because Colorado is going to have to ask Chicago to retain, and I think it's going to drive up the cost a bit for Colorado to acquire him. if Chicago is retaining 50%. So, yeah, I could see him being a target, but I just think this is too much.
Again, you hit the nail on the head with the retaining the 50%. I think it's definitely Colorado that says no on this. Taves, he's going to be an interesting one. Him and Kane, you're trying to figure out where they're going to go. But there was a good. It's going to be a good question because some places. See, I don't know if these guys want to leave Chicago. That's the thing. There's rumors of them not wanting to leave now, so might not waive there no trades. So we'll see about that one. Although, by the way, Anthony, this one was texted to me this week. Dawson Mercer in a first-round pick for Patrick Kane. Who says no?
The Blackhawks. That's not enough.
Not enough, Phil. Blackhawks.
Dawson Mercer in a first?
Yeah.
I feel like they might be able to get a little more than that. But you're getting a young roster player who looks like he's on the upside, on the upswing, and he looks like he's going to be pretty good. For a guy that's leaving as a, he's a UFA at the end of the year. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe Chicago says yes to that. I think at the end of the day, if the offers come in and it's not what they expect, I think something along that type of line could end up being the best offer out there for King. So
yeah,
it's just my 2 cents.
Well, again, guys, thanks for joining us on this segment of Who Says No. Apparently, we have no idea what Berg for his first name was, and we're just going to keep on rolling on with the show. We got one more segment for you, and I'm a little bit annoyed at myself right now because I forgot to prep the entire thing, but we are going to do our Big Apple Hockey Power Rankings.
More power.
You underestimate my power.
So I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Anthony Larocco, who is going to announce his 5 power rankings, the top 5 teams in the NHL, according to him.
All right, number 1, the Arizona Coyotes. They're an absolute dynamo. Karel Velzelmaka is one of the best goalies in the league. Clayton Keller's playing really good hockey. Jacob Chikrin doesn't even want to play for him anymore. No.
Does he know he can't be good enough?
Yeah. Throw a little curveball there. The Boston Bruins. When you're talking like last 10 records, they're not the best team, but they're still, the best team in the National Hockey League overall. They've been an absolute beast, especially at home. A lot of people doubted them, including myself, but behind Linus Ullmark, who's playing phenomenal this year, and Pasternak and Bergeron, Marchand, they all, especially Marchand, got healthy again. They got McAvoy back. They haven't missed a beat. They're just the best team in the NHL right now. We'll see. They have a little bit of an older roster. We'll see as the season goes on if they wear down a little bit. But right now, I think they're the team to beat in the East. Number 2, the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins are really hot right now. I think they're 8-1-1, I believe, in their last
correct.
10, some along those lines. Sidney Crosby's turning back the clock just like Ovechkin. He's amongst the leader in points. Chris Letang had a stroke and he quickly got back on the ice, which was so good to see. You never want to wish that on anybody, so I'm glad he's healthy, but he's a really integral part of their defense. Jake Gensel, Brian Rust, Evgeny Malkin. This is a team that a lot of us doubted for the last couple of years now, saying they're going to fall off, but they have yet to do so. And I don't really know if they'll take a slide. I think they might be here to stay and really compete for whether it be the second, third, or first wild card spot. So third, the Toronto Maple Leafs. We talked about them earlier. Mitch Marner's point streak. They're 9-0-1 in their last 10. Samsonov and Murray, surprisingly, have been giving them good goaltending. And really, what can you say much more about Mitch Marner? Again, he's just leading the charge there. Austin Matthews kind of started off slow. I think a lot of Leaf fans would still want to see him be a little more productive when it comes to scoring goals, but I think with the way he shoots the puck, he'll get back there quick. Listen, with the Leafs, we all know it's not a question of how they do in the regular season. It's what happens in the playoffs. So none of this should really be a surprise. I'm not really a big believer of them come playoff time. I think it's going to be more of the same, but I guess we'll see what Kyle Dubas could do with the trade deadline to try to prevent that. But for now, I give them credit. They're playing really good hockey. Number 4, the New Jersey Devils. Yes, 0-2-1 in their last 3. But again, they've been one of the better teams in the league for the whole season. A lot of people doubted them, saying it was kind of fluke, but they just kept playing really good hockey. They're a really fast team. They play with so much speed. They really force you to make a lot of errors. But Vanacek has been back there when their defense has kind of faltered. He's been really respectable for them. Which is a little bit of surprise because Blackwood was expected to finally get his net back, but he got hurt again. What can you say? He's the new DP. The guy's made of glass. But no, just overall their forward group. Remember, they're doing all this without Andre Palat, who's been hurt. So when he comes back, they're going to be even better. But again, I know they're coming up on a stretch here, but I think they're here to stay, and they might even still win the division. Not still. I think they might actually hold on to that lead for the rest of the year. I'm convinced that there'll be another team that flip-flops with them on the way. I think they might hold that first spot for the rest of the season with the lead that they padded themselves. And lastly, the Vegas Golden Knights, again, they've been going through some injury woes lately, but they've been a really good team. Again, surprised some people. I know early in the year I scoffed at Marc when he said the Vegas Golden Knights are back, and I said it's way too early. They just played really good hockey. The question now is, will they be able to stay afloat while they've been dealing with some of these injuries? But being that the Western Conference is a little bit on the weaker side, I think they can maintain their position and be the favorite to come out of the West possibly. So, those are my top 5 for now. Again, in another month from now, it might be totally different, but those are my 5.
Phil, what would you change out of those 5 as in comparison?
So number 5, I would actually have the New Jersey Devils at 5. They've come off their heater. They're still a really good team. They're up near the top in the standings. So I would have them at 5. Number 4, I'd have the Dallas Stars. I just think that they've played some really good games. They're getting real good production from a lot of different guys in their lineup. I mean, obviously, Jason Robertson's in the MVP conversation right now. Their goaltending was great. Jay Gottinger's cooled off a little bit in terms of goals against average. I think he's around like a 2.5 right now, or I think it's 2.49. I think the last I checked. But he's got like a .916 save percentage, and it's still pretty good. But not the Vezina clear front runner that he was like a month ago. Number 3 for me would be the Winnipeg Jets, or I would have to put them there. I just think that they're just a quiet wagon right now. They're just moving along. They're playing some really good hockey. And again, Josh Morrissey is leading the charge. Continue to talk about his play, point per game, playing great defense. You're getting Kyle Connor starting to come on again. You're starting to get more production out of guys like Mark Scheifele, too. He's getting back to more of the point per game type range that he's been at for the last 6 years or so. And number 2, I have Toronto, just 9-0-1 in their last 10. Just that's wagon status, despite some of the injuries that they've had. Guys like Jake Muzzin's out for the year, so on. We've got to hope for a recovery for him. But Mitch Marner, talked about that. So I can't talk much further about that. And then obviously number 1 is Boston. They just keep moving along, and it's I didn't know when I said people were sleeping on them that they were going to go and do this. Like, I thought that they would have a spot in the playoffs and they would be a good team, but this is just something else, man. Jim Montgomery.
Gotta applaud the job that he's done.
Yeah. This is Jim Montgomery. And you know what? And it's nothing against Bruce Cassidy, who I thought was a really good coach. And the results are showing in Vegas he's got Vegas playing some great hockey despite missing a couple of their key guys. Jim Montgomery's done a hell of a job in Boston because he's working with an older Patrice Bergeron who just doesn't seem to slow down for whatever reason. Ponce de Leon would be jealous of Patrice Bergeron. And
Think about another guy that's turning back the clock.
Yeah. And then you have David Krejci coming back and contributing. Like he takes a year off the NHL, comes back contributing. And then just, wow. The Linus Ullmark, he has to be the Vezina frontrunner right now. He leads in all the major statistical categories. Everything. He leads in wins. He leads in save percentage, and he's got before last night, it was like a .940 save percentage he had entering the night. His goals against, he's leading that. I think it was sub 2 before last night.
Mm-hmm.
Way
down.
Yeah. So they're from top to bottom. They're the most well balanced team right now, Boston.
Unfortunately, Anthony changed my rankings on me. I actually never set my rankings. I kind of jotted them down because you convinced me to move Pittsburgh up by a lot. But I would go probably
Pittsburgh
Boston, then Toronto. What?
Pittsburgh was 6 for me. I just lost it again, I think.
Is that me?
No, I think Mark's on mute actually now.
he doesn't even realize it yet himself. What?
I think either Mark lost audio or he muted himself. I think Mark's microphone is messed up, actually.
Oh, well.
Oh, there it is.
Okay. Nothing says that I was muted, so I don't know.
No, yeah, maybe something was messed up with your microphone because we couldn't hear you talking.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
you kept going. I don't think you even realized we couldn't hear you. You're just
no, because I clicked on the standings just to get back and get that top 10 for the Stars. I love the Stars. I love the way they're playing right now, and I can't say enough about them. The Penguins are obviously, I think, if you could configure 4, 5, 6 almost any way you want. I still got to keep the Devils at number 4 right now because they're still playing well, although they last 3. We'll see about that. And then, I'll leave Vegas in at number 5. So I forgot what number I'm on right now. So, wait, no, there you go. It would be the Devils at 5, Pittsburgh at 4, because I have the Maple Leafs at 2. So so everybody started about this. Usually I have the graphic for it, but I realized during bar talk that I completely forgot to make that graphic up. So, all right. What other news and notes do we have around the NHL right now, guys?
Again, not really much. The only thing that was the whole Horvat thing where it came out that he rejected an offer, and then he put out the statement through the Canucks saying he wasn't going to talk about his future anymore at this point, blah, blah, blah. But that was really it.
And we'll probably get Phil back in about 5 seconds. But do you think that that's just one of those things of like somebody just saying, trying to put it to bed, or is this going to give it new life?
Wait, say it again.
Is this one of those things that he just came out to try to put it to bed, say no more contract talk, or is it going to give it new life to talk about?
I think it's just because the media leaked that he rejected all the offers, so he knew that once that came out in the open that he was going to be asked a lot of questions on it, and does he want to be there? So I guess he wanted to get ahead of it and just say that and what he said is your basic typical fluff, Mark, which is. I'm focused on being a Canuck and helping out this team while I'm here, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to talk about my future at this point. But, I mean, now that everything's out in the open, I got to imagine the Canucks are going to work on, trying to find a feasible trade for him, which is why I think it's going to happen, sooner than the March 3rd trade deadline. Again, I could see it going down in January or, February sometime.
And he has such a low AAV right now. Like so many teams could fit him under the cap.
You'd be surprised. His AAV is what, five something? I mean, there aren't many teams that could fit that cap right now. $5 million, especially contenders.
Yeah. By the way, Anthony, it was Nicholas Bergfors
Yes, that's what.
and Patrice Cormier. So
Yeah.
if anybody should be mad, it's Patrice Cormier. At least I remember Bergfors'
Yeah.
last name. I'm just going under cap friendly just to get his cap number quickly. Yeah, it is 5.5.
Yeah.
And
Not many,
the way he's
not many-
scoring is going to cost him a whole lot more. So
Yeah, there's talk that he's going to get upwards of $8 million on his next contract. So, it's a lot. It's a lot of money. But I mean, I think there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to be willing to give it to him.
all right, and it's gonna be an interesting trade deadline because again, I still don't know if Patrick Kane or John Taves, if they're gonna just wave to go somewhere else. They're not guys that need to chase championships.
Yeah, no, they don't. I'm 50-50 on them leaving. I think they very well might stay. So, and who knows though? Maybe the constant losing may wear on them as the season kind of gets into the doldrums here, like after the holiday season and whatnot. But yeah, I won't be surprised if they stay. And if they stay, that probably throw a lot of monkey wrenches into some teams' plans who really wanted them. But yeah, I won't be shocked at all if they stay in Chicago.
And yeah, Pete, there was a Ponce de Leon reference. I have not seen the Skinner play yet, so I don't know what the suspension is for that. Have you seen that play, Anthony?
It was he cross-checked Jake Gensel like in the.
And I just lost Anthony? All right. Actually, you know what? I did see that. I remember what happened with that, where there was a couple swats at, I think it was the goaltender. And yeah, it looked like just your regular average scrum, but then he gave him a couple shots to the face with the cross check. Yeah, it's probably going to be a game or two, if not 3. I do think that's dangerous. I do think that was excessive. But, Department of Player Safety doesn't know how to pronounce player safety. So I'm gonna hang on for another 5 more minutes, guys, because apparently we're having technical difficulties galore right now. That Phil ran and okay. And Anthony, actually his laptop died, but he had to go anyway. So I'll wrap this up in about another 5 more minutes. And yeah, no. So I mean, yeah, I don't know if they're meeting in person. The worst suspension, the one that should have happened, was should have been the Kuznetsov one. Talk about a chop to somebody's face. This is up there, though. I gotta say this. This was getting excessive and just ridiculous. So yeah. So far we've had a Ponce de Leon segment. We might do a bottom 5 eventually, Pete. Whenever just me is saying, whenever the Rangers win, there's always a but. So if we lose to Toronto tomorrow, then it'll be said we stink because we couldn't beat Toronto while they're on a tear. Yeah, I mean, there's always a yes, but. I mean, that's what New York fans always are. We're yes, but people. And I think it's that we want to find the flaws so we don't get overconfident for the most part. That's just what I think about that. And again, I think that's just how we are as sports fans. So that's not a problem. So yeah. And because it's like that Steve Carell bit from The Office. I'm ready to get hurt again. Oh, Pete. Okay, so it is 3 games. 3 games seems about right. They didn't call him in. I don't think he has a previous record. He's not a frequent suspension guy. Let's see about that one. Let's see how many times he's been suspended. Because that's why you guys tune in for YouTube and everywhere, so that way you hear me typing away at keys. So see if they got it under the transactions. Yeah, he was suspended the last time 10 years ago for kicking Scott Nickel. And yeah, you know, that's actually, yeah, I wouldn't say he's a repeat offender. He's far from Tom Wilson, and he's far from Evgeny Kuznetsov. And yes, unfortunately, you're right about this one. If it's against the Penguins and the league protects them, yeah, the Penguins, they're never going to shake that. They're never going to shake that idea that the league protects them, and I do think they do that. I also think the officiating is a little bit more suspect in that. There's just a lot that goes into that, and I particularly don't. I don't like it that we have that perception, even if it's not there. You should work against that. All right. And St. Louis will be moving a few players in a few months. I believe so. Yeah, especially Vladimir Tarasenko. Stay tuned on that one. And yeah, Howard Chuck, I gotta agree with what Philk was saying right here. Philk really goes in the stats a lot more than I do, which is saying something. But I mean, yeah, and Pete and I still remember playing with Dale Howard Chuck in NHL 92 and 93. But it's not a comparison. Tage Thompson right now is blowing up to be just the next thing in Buffalo. God, I can't wait for the Chicago trip. This going to see Chicago and the Rangers on Sunday. It's a nice one-day trip. We're also going to be me and All Things Islanders are going to be going and seeing the Rangers and the Buffalo Sabres on January 19th. We actually just confirmed that before the show. That's going to be Ryan Miller's retirement, his jersey retirement. So I've never been to one of those. I'm kind of eager to see that. Also eager to see the city of Buffalo. I've never been there before. So get that one crossed off. I have to get some of these Marc on the road videos for you guys. So, I mean, the funniest one is the on the road is the closest one to me, which is going to be UBS. I have that video that I need to finish making and get it out to you. But we work constantly to try to get the spread, the virus, as Mike always says it, Mike Pine. And we're working on that more and more. We've passed 5,000 subscribers. So again, thank you very much, everybody. And don't forget to appease the YouTube gods, which I wish that came out better, but you know, appease the YouTube gods. All right, let's see if we got any more. Well, I hope so in the future. Now that the Rangers are looking like they're better and the Islanders are staying afloat. Got to do one for the Rangers. Got to post those pictures. We had the bar meetup for the Islanders versus the St. Louis Blues. Great time for everybody that night. And also, thank you very much, Amanda, for getting me this. It's a nice way for everybody to remember Big Apple hockey. Though you really couldn't see that from all the way back there, but because the microphone is blocking it a little bit. All right. So we're going to play us out of this because we only got 15 of you that are still here and remaining right now. So the best way to start it all off is with my cousin Phil's song Bye Bye, which is always a great song. I actually would love to download that for everybody if you want to hear it. I go see my cousin Karina, who plays in Huntington at usually a bunch of different places. I gotta see what her schedule is. If you haven't listened to her, Karina Antonucci Music, fantastic musician. I can never say enough about her. And great voice. Her and her sister both have great voices. So everybody, it's been a hell of a week. I was actually delighted we got all this in tonight. There's been so much that we had to pack into today. The power rankings and the Who Says No segment. We're going to be starting a brand new segment next week. Don't have the official title for it. It could be I have a bad feeling about this. So there would be plenty of Star Wars references for everyone else. And it's always a great time. This is our favorite day of the week. Great doing the show with these guys. So everybody, thank you very much. And hopefully see a win for the New York Rangers tomorrow night. See the New York Islanders continue their tear. And can't wait to see the city of Chicago, enjoy some deep dish pizza, and hopefully a win for the New York team on Sunday as well. Pete, thank you very much for showing me around on Sunday. I'm thanking you in the future on it right now. Everybody, thank you very much. That's what we're going to sign off with today on that. Don't forget to listen to us on iTunes. Let's see. Is it still iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts, Odyssey, Google Play, we're on there. And of course, Twitch, where we're going to stream. And actually, I got to check out Twitch sometime, see what we're doing on that one as well. And we might have to change up channel formats, so keep it posted on that, because we might have to do shorts on another one. So everybody, thank you very much for joining us today, and we will see you soon.